My name is Ryan, though for the past few hours, I've been thinking of myself as someone else entirely. It's strange how a single wish, uttered almost jokingly, can twist your entire reality. I'd never thought much about magic or curses, but here I was, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, tracing the curve of my jawline that now felt impossibly soft, the unfamiliar length of hair brushing against my shoulders. My heart thumped in my chest like a drum warning of an impending storm. I'm 24, an ordinary guy working at a mid-sized tech startup, balancing spreadsheets, code reviews, and endless cups of coffee. I've always been a bit shy, the kind of person who shies away from attention, preferring quiet corners to social limelight. My girlfriend, Emma, has been my anchor for 2 years. She's confident, warm, and fiercely independent, a spark that lights up any room she enters. I've always admired her poise and intelligence, but I've also wrestled with my own insecurities. Deep down, I've harbored a fascination with femininity, the elegance, the fashion, the thrill of stepping into a persona that's completely different from my own. But it's always been a fantasy, confined to private moments in my apartment. The night began innocuously. Emma and I were lounging on the couch after a long day of work, half watching a cheesy reality show while she teased me about my hidden hobbies. "I bet if I gave you a dress and a wig, you'd totally rock it," she laughed, tossing a throw pillow at me. I shrugged, a nervous grin tugging at my lips. "Maybe, but I'm happy being me." Emma smirked, leaning closer, her eyes glinting mischievously. "A little adventure wouldn't hurt. You'd be so pretty. I mean, seriously, you'd make a stunning woman." I laughed nervously, but a thought lingered in the back of my mind. What if? It was a fleeting fantasy, quickly buried beneath layers of rationality and embarrassment. I had no idea that, in that casual moment, my words and desires were about to collide with reality in a way I couldn't control. I remember the wish clearly. Whispered to myself, half laughing, half daring fate. I wish I could see what it's like to be her. To be beautiful like that. And then, nothing at first. Just the soft hum of the apartment, the quiet clinking of Emma's glass on the coffee table. I shrugged it off, dismissing it as a silly thought. But when I went to the bathroom moments later to wash my hands, the reflection that greeted me made my stomach drop. My hands flew to my face. My jawline was softer, my skin smoother than it had ever been. My chest, slim and delicate, was unlike anything I had felt before. Panic and disbelief tangled with an unfamiliar, intoxicating thrill. I touched my lips, now fuller, and my hair, long, silky strands cascading past my shoulders, framing a face that was undeniably feminine. It took a moment to process the impossible. This can't be real. And yet, the mirror didn't lie. I had become her, or at least, a version of her. Every detail of my reflections screamed transformation. My initial shock was quickly replaced with a complex swirl of emotions: curiosity, excitement, fear, and a sinking dread about what this would mean. Emma's voice from the living room pulled me back to reality. "Ryan? Everything okay?" she called. My heart leapt into my throat. I froze, imagining her walking in and seeing the new me. What would she think? Would she laugh? Scold me? Or something else entirely? The thrill mingled dangerously with anxiety. I backed away from the mirror, my bare feet silent against the cold tiles. Every movement felt exaggerated, every sound I made amplified in my ears. The apartment, once familiar and safe, had become a stage for an unknown drama. I felt like a secret agent in my own life, navigating a world that suddenly viewed me through different eyes. I realized that my fascination with femininity, once hidden in private corners, was now unavoidable. I could explore it in ways I'd only dreamed of, but at a cost. The transformation was complete, inescapable, and permanent, at least for the moment. The question wasn't just about acceptance, it was about survival. Could I navigate my everyday life in this new form without losing everything I had? Emma, my job, my identity, all of it now hinged on how well I could play this part. For hours, I experimented with my reflection, testing the contours of my new face, the curve of my shoulders, the way my movements changed. I tugged gently at the dress that had mysteriously appeared in my wardrobe, marveling at the sensation of fabric brushing against my skin. Makeup, soft foundation, blush, a swipe of lipstick, enhanced the transformation, blurring the line between fantasy and reality. I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet undeniably right. It was as if a hidden part of me had finally surfaced, demanding recognition. And yet, fear lingered. Emma's return, my friend's perceptions, even my own ability to reconcile Alex with this new identity, it all loomed over me like a storm cloud. The wish had given me a body, but it hadn't given me answers. Every step I took in this new form would be a test. Every interaction could reveal the secret I hadn't fully embraced, or control. As night fell, I sat by the window, staring at the city lights, my reflection in the glass superimposed over the world outside. Alexis, that's what I was beginning to call her, the persona that now lived within me. She was me, but not me. Strong, confident, beautiful, and terrifyingly vulnerable. And somewhere deep down, I realized this was only the beginning. The wish had been granted, but the consequences were just starting to unfold. What would happen when Emma saw me tomorrow? How would my friends react? And most importantly, what if I wanted to stay like this? The thrill of possibility collided with the edge of dread. I had stepped into a life I had never imagined, and there was no turning back. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, casting soft lines across my bed as I stirred awake. At first, the familiar weight of sheets and the quiet hum of the apartment offered comfort, but then reality hit me again like a slap. I was still her. Alexis. My hands instinctively rose to my face, tracing the delicate curves, the softness I hadn't known I could possess. My chest, my arms, my hands, everything had changed. I wasn't just Ryan anymore. And the knowledge was both thrilling and terrifying. Breakfast was a delicate performance. I moved through the apartment with exaggerated grace, careful not to knock over anything. Each step in the heels that now adorned my feet felt foreign, forcing me to adjust my posture, to rethink the way I carried myself. The mirror in the kitchen reflected a girl I barely recognized, yet also a part of me I had always wanted to explore. My fingers fumbled with the toast, my hands feeling too soft and delicate for such a mundane task. Even opening the fridge felt like a scene in a movie where I was the star, performing for an invisible audience. Emma entered shortly after, her hair in a messy bun and a mug of coffee in hand. She paused mid-step when she saw me. I froze, unable to meet her eyes, suddenly painfully aware of every inch of fabric clinging to my skin. Her gaze lingered for a heartbeat longer than comfortable, then a teasing smile spread across her face. "Well, you look different." I swallowed, my voice faltering. "Morning." I could feel the tremor, the raw vulnerability, but somehow, Emma's amused expression softened the panic inside me. She didn't scold, didn't ask questions immediately, she simply handed me a cup of coffee and sat opposite me. As we ate, I struggled to maintain normalcy. I laughed at jokes, nodded at her stories, but every movement, every word, felt like a test. Could I act like myself while being someone else entirely? The thought made my stomach twist. Emma was warm and perceptive, she would notice the smallest shift in behavior. And yet, beneath the anxiety, there was an undeniable thrill. For the first time, I was experiencing a life I had only dreamed of, fully immersed in a persona I had never had the courage to explore. By mid-morning, I had retreated to my bedroom, determined to understand Alexis more fully. The wardrobe, previously filled with Ryan's casual clothes, had been transformed overnight. Dresses of every color and style hung neatly, shoes lined up like a silent army waiting for orders. Makeup sat on the vanity, brushes and palettes arranged with meticulous precision. My heart pounded at the sight. This wasn't just a temporary change, some force had fully prepared me for a new life. I picked a soft pink dress, hesitant at first, but the silky fabric glided over my skin like water. My fingers trembled as I fastened the zipper, feeling the unfamiliar contours of my new body adjust. High heels added both height and elegance, forcing me to take slower, more deliberate steps. When I looked into the mirror, I barely recognized the reflection. Alexis stared back, wide eyes, flushed cheeks, and lips slightly parted in awe and disbelief. Applying makeup was both ritual and revelation. I traced eyeliner along my lashes, feeling the sharp contrast between the precision required and the softness of my features. Lipstick added color and confidence, yet also heightened vulnerability. Every brushstroke reminded me that I was no longer merely Ryan. I was Alexis, and the line between curiosity and self-discovery blurred with every motion. Internal conflict roared inside me. Was I ashamed? Excited? Both? Each emotion surged like waves, leaving me off balance. I remembered moments from my past, secretly trying on Emma's clothes, imagining what it would be like to be a girl. That fantasy had now collided violently with reality. Fear whispered, what if Emma rejected me? What if my friends, my colleagues, my life as Ryan, dissolved? Yet another part of me reveled in the thrill, in the liberation of exploring an identity without boundaries. The suspense escalated as the hours passed. I was alone in the apartment for stretches. Each creak of the floorboards or sound from the hallway magnified my anxiety. Would someone come early? Would Emma drop by unexpectedly? My mind raced with scenarios, each more intense than the last. I had to master Alexis' movements, her voice, her gestures, not just to explore the fantasy but to survive in a world that still expected Ryan. Lunch came, and I hesitated at the door. The thrill of stepping out in public as Alexis was intoxicating, but fear gripped my heart. What if someone recognized me? What if Emma walked in while I was mid-transformation? I practiced speaking in a slightly higher voice, walking with a softer step, adjusting my posture to mimic femininity. Every detail mattered, how I moved, how I smiled, even how I breathed. The world felt simultaneously larger and smaller, each moment brimming with potential disaster or exhilaration. As evening approached, the stakes heightened. Emma returned home unexpectedly early, calling out my name with casual familiarity. My body froze, every decision mattered. Should I run, hide, or embrace Alexis fully? My pulse raced as I moved toward the living room, the dress swishing around my legs, heels clicking sharply against the floor. Emma's eyes widened, not in shock, but in curious amusement. You really went all out, she said, tilting her head. I nodded, a nervous smile plastered on my lips. My heart hammered in my chest as I gauged her reaction. Would she see this as a game, a joke, or a genuine expression of who I had become? For hours, we navigated an unspoken tension. Emma teased, questioned gently, but never forced the truth. She watched me, observed Alexis emerging fully from Ryan's shell, and I felt both exposed and seen. The internal struggle continued, fear, desire, excitement, anxiety, all mingled in a dizzying whirlwind. By nightfall, I found myself alone again, reflecting in the mirror. Alexis was no longer a fantasy or a costume. She was living, breathing, present. My body, my voice, my gestures, they all belonged to her now. Yet Ryan's consciousness lingered beneath, a silent observer of this new life. Could I reconcile the two? Did I want to? The transformation wasn't just physical, it was emotional, psychological, and spiritual. Alexis represented freedom, self-expression, and a risk that could consume me. Each step forward required courage, each moment a test of identity. And with every heartbeat, I realized the suspense wasn't about discovery. It was about control, desire, and the unknown path ahead. The night ended with me staring at the ceiling, heart racing, body tingling from the adrenaline of a day lived in duality. Alexis was here to stay, at least for now. Ryan's world was gone, replaced by a life of thrilling uncertainty, emotional intensity, and constant danger. And I knew, deep down, that the real challenge, navigating the world as Alexis while keeping Ryan alive within me, was only beginning. The following morning, tension hung in the apartment like a thick fog. Every sound, from the hum of the refrigerator to the distant car horns outside, seemed amplified in Alexis' heightened awareness. I had mastered the basics, walking, speaking, even eating as her, but the real test awaited, facing the world beyond the apartment walls while keeping Ryan buried deep inside. Emma's presence complicated everything. She had become a silent observer of Alexis' existence, her reactions unpredictable. Sometimes teasing, sometimes approving, sometimes testing. That day, she lingered longer than usual in the kitchen, eyes sharp, a hint of mischief dancing in her expression. "You're really committed to this," she said lightly, sipping her coffee. "I almost didn't recognize you." The words sent a shiver down my spine. Recognition meant visibility. Recognition meant risk. And risk had consequences I was not yet ready to face. I spent hours preparing, selecting the perfect outfit. A navy blue dress that hugged curves in all the right places, paired with sleek heels and a subtle but commanding touch of makeup. Every detail mattered, the way the dress fell, the slight curl of my hair, the tilt of my chin. Each element was a declaration of Alexis' presence, but also a test of my control. The first outing was short, a simple trip to the corner store. My heart pounded with every step, heels clicking sharply against the pavement. Eyes followed me, whispers brushed past my ears, and I realized the vulnerability of living as Alexis in public. Even the simplest gestures, crossing the street, handling money, glancing at passers-by, felt laden with risk. On returning, Emma greeted me with a knowing smile.
See?
Not so scary, right? Her amusement only heightened my anxiety. You look good, really good. But, she trailed off, eyes narrowing playfully.
Don't think you're out of the woods yet.
Her warning lingered as the days unfolded. Each moment outside the apartment became a minefield. Colleagues at work noticed subtle changes, my posture, my voice, the elegance with which I moved. Every interaction was a delicate performance, and the stakes rose when I realized that my boss had requested an unexpected meeting. A project update that could not be postponed. I arrived, heart pounding, to find the office floor filled with familiar faces. Every glance felt loaded with scrutiny. My boss, a stern yet unpredictable figure, leaned in close, his gaze lingering in a way that blurred professional boundaries. Alexis, he said, using the name I had adopted for this new persona. You've changed. The team is curious.
Curious.
That single word sent waves of panic through me. Was my secret exposed?
Were they laughing behind my back?
I fought to maintain composure, adjusting my posture, my smile, my voice. Yet beneath the surface, anxiety coiled tightly, threatening to unravel the careful persona I had built. A colleague approached, a friendly but sharp observer, and I felt the first true challenge of public exposure. Wow, Alexis, you look amazing today, she said, genuine but loaded with subtext. Every syllable felt like a test, every glance a threat to my dual identity. I smiled, voice slightly higher than usual, feeling the tension tighten in my chest. Returning home, I found a note slipped under the door. Emma's handwriting, dinner tonight. And, be ready. We need to talk.
My stomach dropped.
Dinner had always been casual, but the words carried weight.
Did she suspect something deeper?
Was this a confrontation, or a continuation of her games? Evening arrived, and I prepared meticulously. The navy dress replaced with a red one, bolder and more commanding. Makeup emphasized the eyes, lips painted to convey confidence. Each movement was intentional, each gesture calculated to maintain Alexis' presence while shielding Ryan's fragile identity. Emma greeted me at the door, eyes sharp, a smirk playing on her lips. You really are committed, she said, circling me like a predator and prey simultaneously. I almost feel impressed.
Dinner was a dance of tension.
Conversation flowed superficially, but every glance and inflection carried subtext. Emma's eyes lingered, reading, teasing, testing. I felt my pulse spike with every word, aware that one slip could reveal the secret I fought to protect. Suddenly, a knock at the door shattered the fragile calm. My heart froze. Visitors were rare, and this was unscheduled. Emma's eyes twinkled with mischief. Don't tell me you're not expecting anyone. I shook my head, breath shallow. Emma rose and opened the door. A neighbor stood there, smiling brightly, holding a package.
Hey.
I thought I'd drop this by, didn't want to leave it at the door.
I realized the danger instantly.
Public exposure, unwanted attention, a stranger observing Alexis' every movement. The package was small, but the stakes were enormous. My hands shook as I reached for it, heels wobbling slightly. Every motion was scrutinized, every breath amplified. Emma watched silently, eyes gleaming with amusement, as I maneuvered through the encounter. The neighbor left, and the door closed. I exhaled, but the adrenaline lingered, electric and unnerving. Alexis had survived this challenge, but only barely. Later, alone, I confronted the mirror again. Alexis stared back, fully formed, confident yet vulnerable. The heels, the makeup, the dress, they were armor and weapon simultaneously. But the danger remained, not from outsiders, but from the delicate balance of identity, fear, and desire that defined my new existence. Sleep came fitfully, haunted by scenarios. Being discovered, losing control, failing to maintain the duality. Yet beneath the fear was an undeniable thrill, the sense that Alexis had a life worth living, even amidst chaos. The next day, stakes escalated further. Emma suggested a social event, a gathering of friends and colleagues. Exposure, scrutiny, risk of discovery all combined. I had to navigate conversations, gestures, laughter, and glances while maintaining Alexis' presence. The heels dug into my feet, the dress clung with suffocating perfection, and makeup threatened to smudge under stress. At the event, The tension was palpable. Colleagues whispered, some stared openly, while Emma moved beside me, both a shield and a provocateur. Every comment, laugh, and glance became a potential revelation. I laughed, nodded, and performed the role flawlessly, yet inside, panic churned. The symbolic moment came near the end of the evening. A sudden gust of wind from the balcony sent my wig slightly askew. I froze.
A colleague noticed. Time slowed.
I reached subtly, correcting it without a misstep. The relief was immediate but temporary. Each second reminded me that Alexis' existence was precarious, thrilling, and dangerous. Returning home, Emma didn't speak immediately. She leaned against the doorframe, eyes assessing. "Not bad," she said finally, voice low. "You really might pull this off, if you survive everything." I understood her message. The real challenge wasn't the outfits, the makeup, or even public scrutiny. It was sustaining this dual existence, maintaining Alexis' identity without losing Ryan entirely. Night fell, and I collapsed into bed, exhausted but electrified. The adrenaline, the fear, the thrill, all mingled into a dizzying cocktail of emotion. Alexis had faced her first real tests: public scrutiny, unexpected visitors, social performance. And she had survived, but only just.
The final scene before sleep was symbolic.
I stood before the mirror, removing heels and dress, feeling the familiar contours of Ryan beneath. Yet beneath that, Alexis lingered, fully alive, asserting presence, refusing to be discarded. The balance was delicate, the stakes high, and the next day promised new challenges, tests, and moments of tension that could unravel everything. The suspense wasn't over.
It had only intensified.
The apartment was silent, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant rumble of city traffic. I stood in front of the mirror once more, Alexis fully formed in her navy dress, heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor. The reflection staring back at me was no longer just a disguise, it was a persona, alive, daring, and impossibly fragile. Emma appeared behind me, her presence sudden, almost predatory. "You know," she said, leaning against the doorway, "I think you're getting good at this." Her eyes sparkled with amusement and something darker, something testing. "But the real question is, do you want to keep going?" My breath caught. I wanted to say yes, wanted to embrace Alexis entirely, but fear rooted me to the spot.
Each word felt like a trap.
I don't know," I admitted, voice trembling, betraying the inner turmoil I usually kept hidden.
Emma's smirk widened.
"Oh, I think you do. Deep down, you love it."
A sudden knock at the door interrupted our tense exchange. My heart nearly stopped.
Unexpected visitors had been the ultimate test earlier, but this time, the timing felt deliberate, as though the universe, or Emma, was conspiring to push me over the edge. Emma crossed the room gracefully, opening the door with the poise of someone who knew every possible outcome. A courier stood there, holding a small package with no return address. I froze. Every instinct screamed danger. Emma took the package with a casual smile. "For you, Alexis," she said, and handed it to me. Her eyes glinted with mischief. "Open it." My hands shook as I tore the paper, revealing a sleek, high-end envelope inside. The contents were a set of instructions for a secretive photo shoot, one that required public appearances, social media posts, and full immersion into Alexis' identity.
I swallowed hard.
This was more than a test, it was a point of no return. A part of me thrilled at the prospect, at the chance to explore Alexis fully, while another part panicked at the exposure, the judgment, the impossibility of keeping Ryan hidden. Emma's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts.
"Think carefully.
Every choice has consequences."
A sudden buzz from my phone added to the suspense.
A message from an unknown number. "Are you ready to become her, permanently?"
Goosebumps prickled my skin. Who knew? Who had seen Alexis?
Was this a friend, a stranger, or someone connected to Emma's intricate games?
I looked at the mirror again.
Alexis' reflection smiled confidently, teasingly, as if daring me to embrace her. Ryan, buried beneath, trembled in fear, uncertain, caught between surrender and resistance. Emma stepped closer, whispering, "The next move is yours. But remember, once you step forward, there's no turning back." I reached for the envelope, fingers brushing the glossy paper, my pulse thundering in my ears. The weight of decision pressed down. Be Alexis fully, risk exposure and judgment, or retreat to the safety of Ryan's identity, potentially losing the thrill, the freedom, and Emma's manipulations. A sudden sound at the window made both of us turn. Someone was watching. Shadowed figures glimpsed through the curtains, eyes locked on the apartment.
My stomach dropped.
The city lights flickered outside, a reminder that the world beyond this apartment would never allow secrecy to last. The next chapter of Alexis' life, and Ryan's struggle, was about to begin, teetering on a knife's edge. Emma's hand found mine, warm, commanding, and impossible to resist. "So, what's it going to be?" she asked softly, voice layered with anticipation and danger. I swallowed, heart hammering, knowing that whatever choice I made in that moment would define both of us forever.